What's up, Space Pirates? This is your captain, the Dread Pirate Dr. Disaster, and one of the most interesting developments heating up in the past few months has been this ongoing battle between the current members of Disney's board of directors and the people at the Trian Investment Group who are trying to get on the board. Well, the newest volley has been fired in this conflict. Trian has put out what amounts to a bit of a manifesto explaining their reasoning behind starting this battle in the first place. It's a list of things they want Disney to change so that they can start making money. It's a list of things they will do if they are installed on the board of directors. Now, I have been speculating for the past few months that if Nelson Peltz, the leader of Trian, were to get put on the board, that he would advocate for the likes of Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm and Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios to lose their jobs, or at the very least be forced to change the way that they operate. In this white paper, I think we get a pretty solid answer as to whether or not I was correct.
You are terminated.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, and also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. My handle on there is Dr. Disaster1. But let's get to the news here and see what Nelson Peltz and the guys at Trian had to say about Disney. What suggestions do they have for fixing the company? We're going to read about it in this article from Variety. The link is in the description if you want to read it for yourself, but its headline tells us, Disney should make fewer movie sequels, take more shots on goal with content strategy, activist investor argues in 133-page white paper. Nelson Peltz's Trian Partners, which is agitating to get 2 seats on Disney's board, on Monday released a lengthy white paper analyzing the Mouse House's financial performance and suggesting strategic fixes. And then the article details the struggle between Disney's board and Trian, but one thing I want to point out here, which gives me some hope that Peltz could actually pull this off, the media has been startlingly neutral about the conflict recently. Usually, as we talk about here often, the mainstream media is in Disney's back pocket. They do and say whatever makes their corporate overlords happy. This is anecdotal evidence, but it definitely feels like they've been dialed back in their vitriol for Peltz, almost as if they wonder if he might win or not, and they wonder if they might need to kiss his ass in the future. I don't know, it's just an observation. It's still pretty tough sledding for Peltz to get put on the board. But let's skip down to here, where it says, among the proposals in the 133-page white paper, the hedge fund says that to achieve a better return on its streaming content, Disney should take more shots on goal and increase creative risks outside of its core franchises, similar to Netflix.
I like it.
We were just talking about this, how Bob Iger and Disney need to stop with all the safe sequels, prequels, remakes, and reboots. We were just talking about this yesterday. Disney needs an infusion of new content. They've become stagnant with this ultra-safe crap. Anyway, reading on, the company, Trian says, should explore allocating more budget dollars across lower cost, easier to produce projects to further balance Disney's higher cost franchise content. Prioritizing retention content spend should diversify away the risk of expensive streaming flops. Now, this plan would require that Disney have competent writers. If they aren't leaning on CGI and nostalgia from well-known properties, then they need good writers. These woke ideologues ain't it. So they'd have to hire new, fresh faces. And then, in this next paragraph, Trian starts really speaking my language. The article says, Trian also recommends that Disney make fewer movie sequels. Disney's flywheel spins the fastest when the company creates or acquires new intellectual property to monetize, the white paper says. Sequels are less risky film ventures to produce, but do not drive long-term benefits in the same way that new IP can.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Now, I don't care if you're Star Wars or Marvel, eventually you will run into a situation where you are confronted with diminishing returns. Sure, there's an alternate dimension out there where Disney didn't piss off half the Star Wars fans by not planning out the sequel trilogy, not respecting the original characters, and not blaming the fans for their failure. But eventually, you have to take a step back from any franchise and really innovate. Eventually, you have to do it, or you will suffer from diminishing returns. One could argue that's what Star Wars did with The Mandalorian, but Disney in its current state ruined that Mandoverse spectacularly fast, and the diminishing returns kicked in rather quickly. But this next paragraph is probably the most interesting. It says, the firm continues, the percentage of Disney films that are sequels, prequels, spin-offs, or remakes has dramatically increased, suggesting a creative engine that is sputtering.
That is correct.
Trian is calling for a comprehensive review of studio operations and culture by the board, including the state of leadership, process, and workflow.
There's a little pee coming out of me right now.
Let me reread that phrase that they used here. They want a comprehensive review of studio operations and culture by the board, including the state of leadership, process, and workflow. Now, I'm sure that many of you out there have worked within corporations before. Many of you probably do so now. For those of you who haven't, let me just tell you that this language sounds an awful lot like someone is about to get fired. Clearly, Trian is unhappy with studio operations at Disney. Reviewing the state of leadership, process, and workflow sounds an awful lot like they're going to be pulling people into the office and let them justify their continued employment. I've seen this on numerous occasions. HR tells people they're having impromptu performance reviews, and then a whole bunch of people lose their jobs. The rest of the article lists Trian's other major bullet points, including a merger of Hulu and Disney Plus. Honestly, that's just common sense to me. They also discussed the deal to acquire 20th Century Fox for $71 billion back in 2019, and they talk about how that was a major boondoggle, because ever since that happened, their box office has actually taken a major tumble. Like I said before, I left a link in the description if you want to read the article in full for yourself. It's a little bit longer. There's a lot of good info in there, however, that I just don't have time to cover here. So I'll leave it there, but what do you guys think? Should Kennedy and Feige be worried for their jobs if Nelson Peltz gets put on the board? Or maybe I should ask this first. What do you think are the chances that Peltz will even make it onto the board in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below and we'll talk about it there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.